We use
What day
CT
is it?
here at Sherman's.
What's the date on it?
I don't know what day it is.
You always do that.
It's Tuesday, because we're here.
Tuesday what?
All right.
January 28th.
Go ahead. What's the first item of business on the study session?
Vehicle policy, I was asked to see what we have for policies on vehicles. We have what is in the bylaws. If you look under section 16.4.2, it has designation for vehicles. The district reserves the right to designate the vehicles to be used or to deny the use of its vehicles. If the district vehicle is used, it shall be driven by a district approved driver. That's basically all you had in the bylaws. Within personnel policy, you have use of district vehicles. District vehicles may be used only for the purpose and in the manner authorized by the district. Only qualified, trained, licensed by DOT classification district employees may operate district vehicles. All vehicles shall be operated in accordance with all applicable traffic laws and the Fair Labor Standard Act. The vehicle operator shall be responsible for the mechanical condition and proper use and safety of their vehicles. After normal working hour, district vehicles and equipment will be maintained inside the locked enclosure of the maintenance shop. Duly appointed on-call emergency personnel, safety personnel, and personnel authorized by the district manager may use a district vehicle on business during other than regular working hours. Unauthorized or improper use of district vehicles may result in disciplinary up to and including immediate discharge.
Questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a comment. I think what we have is good, but I think we can fine tune it. We have two gentlemen with their positions that probably need to have they're on 24/7. That'd be Donnie and Gary. And I think you have another one that's on call for a week at a time, right? Yeah. So I think what we could do is have the other vehicle, the person that's on call 24/7 is the only person who can take a vehicle home, besides those two. And then in the second part, on the back page, and I think that's just by probably from the city manager can address that part. And the second part, I think the issue is parking everything in the maintenance shop. I think there's times, there may be times when weather predicts that maybe we need the grader or tractor in a place that's monitored, not just sitting out somewhere. Other entities do it, but running a grader all the way up to the tanks and back every day would be a lot of waste of gas and time. And I'm thinking, because I think there's going to be another issue coming up when we put in a road around the tower up there. We're going to have to be building a road. And my thinking is, if you had those things where they are at least monitored by someone in that area, because you can't leave them up at the tank because they're not supervised. But if you had them where they're monitored, then you wouldn't be running 5 miles every day with the vehicles. They'd be someplace just for that particular thing. But I think we'd have to modify our rules. And I think I would almost cover everything, because I know Bob complains, and I think Yvonne twists my ear sometimes about the high cost of gas. And I think that we can eliminate that problem with only the ones on call are the ones that take them home.
Okay. Bob, your thoughts? Yes. I want to point out how we conveniently skipped the most important part of this document. The manager was kind to start with use of district vehicles, but let's all back up to the previous paragraph that was included here. And I want to point out that this is in place in the rules and regulations. Under no circumstances will district vehicles, equipment, tools, machinery, or other property be utilized, stored, or maintained on the private property of any district employee. So, that's in there. We're not supposed to be taking this stuff outside the district at all, even the trucks. Now, we fall back to the other one, and also, let's go just a little further. If we'll go to the next paragraph after where he stopped, vehicle allowance. Now, the reason I touch on this is I have pointed it out in the past. Anytime that vehicle is used for anything other than business use, and that means anything, then we are supposed to be withholding proper taxes and accounting for it as a benefit under IRS rules. And you'll see it notes it as the W-2 form in the last sentence. This is common with all businesses, not us or anybody else. That is just federal law. This has not been accounted for properly in the past, and any of this needs to be accounted for going forward if we allow a vehicle outside the district boundaries. And we do have public records of somebody stating they used it to go somewhere. So I don't want to get into that, but it is a federal regulation that we can't override. Now, Harry is correct about some of this on the maintenance shop, but inside locked enclosure of the maintenance shop. I don't think if we really look at that too hard, but maintenance yard is generally acceptable under most rules and regulations, not necessarily inside a building. You generally don't store the backhoe and everything else inside a building. So the road grader sitting inside the yard locked would meet all your regulations. As for staging the road grader, first off, we have public statements that it has a traction issue. If you use it any at all for snow, it's not designed for snow, therefore we're automatically lose our sovereign immunity. We're done. So it should not be used unless of an absolute emergency and you purchase tire chains to correct the traction issue. Unless you're buying snow tires, and I don't think we want to go down that route. So it's not to be used or staged for snowstorms.
Greg, do you have any thoughts? No, I'm going to keep my mouth shut on this one. Neil?
Yes, the use of district property, under no circumstances will district vehicles, equipment, etc. be taken on private property. We need to change that anyway if we're going to allow the on-call personnel to stage these at home, to take them home with them. So that needs to be corrected, regardless of whether we let the rest of the employees take vehicles or not. That needs to be corrected. The other part of it, I talked this over with various different people. And the staging thing, we might be trying to solve something here that's really not a problem. I mean, the dollars issue involved is probably insignificant. I think where we're still fighting is perception within the public. Are we going to acquiesce to the perception within the public? We're fighting that anyway. I think we are correcting that to some extent, and I think that's what's good going forward. But are we going to set our policies on what we see in Facebook? You know, I think that's a mistake. I think that I read the other part of this policy here. It says duly appointed on-call emergency personnel, security personnel, and personnel authorized by the district manager may use a district vehicle on business during other than working hours. Well, I'm a little bit concerned here that we might manage. It does say authorize the district manager. Shouldn't we be allowing the district manager to make this kind of call? If he authorizes somebody to use these vehicles on other than working hours, shouldn't we be allowing him to do that? Isn't that kind of the job of the district manager?
May I respond?
That's my.
We are allowing him to do that. What we're not allowing him to do is override right, the statement is it's not left out there. It's not stored at somebody's home.
Well,
He has the right to say, hey, Donnie or Josh or anybody, go get a truck, go do this. They go do that, and then they take it back.
Well, that needs to be corrected within this anyway, because if they're gonna take it home, that sentence needs to be corrected. If we're going to let Donnie, because he's on call all the time, if we're gonna let him take a vehicle home and take it home with him so that he can be responsible to respond within 30 minutes to a call, then that needs to be corrected anyway, because it will be off of city property.
Okay. Any thoughts by anyone?
One of the thoughts that I have in talking with employees and Donnie and Yvonne, and I see the whole thing. Yeah, it is part of the benefit package. That if you do allow everybody to take the vehicles home, whatever. I look at it this way. I have my two main, my water plant, which is Gary. He lives close to the plant, so he gets that call at 2 o'clock in the morning. He hops in his truck and we just go straight to the plant. It's quick. Donnie, I know he's on call with Joe or one of his on-call guys. He'll call Donnie probably if it's bad enough. Usually that on-call guy will also need an assistant to help him. If you have a sewer break or a sewer backup, whatever, he'll usually go out, that first guy, survey the scene, look and see what's going on. If he needs help, or the jetter, he'll call the other guy, because you can't have those machines running by one guy. It's dangerous. It puts people at risk, and I don't want to do that. Especially if they have to get into a manhole or something. I would rather have two people there doing it. So you're looking at, yeah, you have an on-call person, but then you also have that other guy that's on call. The other aspect of it that I look at is going through policies and procedures, and when this was changed, there was never, they got rid of the paid on-call. The reason why they went to this, I think, from what I gather, was because they weren't paying them for their time to be on call. For the 7 days, because right now you have 4 guys that are on call on the exterior side. Right now you have Greg and Gary that are on call all the time for the plants. So with the exterior guys, they're on call for 7-day blocks at a time. So it's once a month, 7 days. With that being said, on-call means that you got to be within a 30-minute response time. You have to be in cellular coverage so you can get the calls. So you're dedicating yourself that week of time that if you get called out, you need to be out. So it isn't like they can go to Pueblo and go shopping or whatever. So there is no monetary value there. Because otherwise, if they get called out, they get paid for their time that they're called out. Either they can take it as comp time during the week that they're working, or they can take it as overtime, which is time and a half. One of the things that I looked at too with this in talking, would it save us? I don't know, because in the same aspect, if you have somebody that goes on call, goes down, checks it out, and he does need the help, they bring in the other guy, that's another 30 minutes. So by the time you look at maybe an hour job for a backup or an hour and a half job, it's going to extend it to about 2 to 3 hours for those 2 guys. So, I'm just looking at all angles. I'm being the devil's advocate plus the guy on the other side. These are all the things that you've got to think about by what you're saying and what your actions are going to be doing to do that. The way the policy is written, if I see that there is unauthorized use of a vehicle, it gives me the power to investigate and either discipline or fire. In that sense, if they are using it maliciously or out of job service or whatever.
My only thoughts, I look at it, I didn't consider money at all, because I'm sure that it all balances out one way or the other. But I think what we're balancing is perception of the public and not just Facebook crowd. I'm not even sure what Facebook is. As opposed to ease for our employees. Getting calls at 2 in the morning or 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning or working all day and into the night is not a pleasant thing. So I just wanted to, and I'm the one who asked you to basically give us what information we had. I just want to see if we're balancing perception versus personnel as well as we possibly can. Either way, out of balance causes problems. Either morale problems if you go too much to the perception, or the fact is that every one of us works for the taxpayers, so that can get clear out of whack as far as perception. What I would suggest when we get to the regular meeting is simply that we take a little time to digest this. If there's some obvious changes we need to make, or look up some other examples. I mean, every district, every company of any size has automobile policies, and see if anything needs tweaked to try to keep that balance. I am all for giving James all the authority that we want him to have, because of, I used to follow people around, but it's when I drove a squad car. But I just think it's something that, I mean, we should probably be reviewing every policy we have periodically, because things change, times change. Any other?
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
So to Bob, your reference to the W-2, at the time that we changed from like having 3 people or 2 people with trucks to, I guess, everybody, I was not aware of that. But once someone told me that's what we were doing, I saw fuel costs going up, so I checked more into it, and that's how I found out the policy was changed. I did call our auditor on the W-2, and he stated that as long as they are on call, that we do not have to follow the W-2 tax route. But I guess for me, when there are changes, and I know I've talked to Jim about this, to personnel policies, anything, I really need to know that, because there are, tax issues. There are what's called on-call. Now, there's 2 things, on-call or availability of time. Now, based on Colorado law, they don't have an on-call labor law. They do have an availability call. Yes, and federal labor law is the same. But I guess I just want to make sure any changes that we have are communicated to me, because I'm the one that gets the audit, and I want to make sure that we're in full compliance.
Gary, you have your hand.
We were always paid in the past to go on call. It wasn't a lot of money, but it made it worth your time a little bit. Now you're stuck in this valley, no matter what, whether you get called or not. And you're doing it for free out of the goodness of your heart. If you don't get called out, you don't get any extra money. You do get a vehicle, but you don't get any reward for that.
So you can't go to Pueblo when you're on call?
You have to be able to get back within half an hour, and that's basically Pueblo Boulevard.
Wow. So when you go to Pueblo, I mean, you go somewhere sometimes, don't you?
Rare.
Rarely. Wow.
And
We try and work it out
Yeah.
within our group of guys that, hey, I have a doctor's appointment, I am on call this week. Would somebody be able to cover that piece while I'm gone for that 2-hour period or 3-hour period or half day? And that also helps out when the other person has a vehicle too, because then you're not spending the time shopping vehicles back and forth for the what if type scenario. And there's a lot of efficiency that this has created amongst our smaller staff. If we had 15 guys and you could say, well, I need 2 of you to be available and this person's on call, you have 3 people with coverage. We don't really have that luxury. All of my guys that are in the public work side of things, we communicate on a weekly basis of, okay, so-and-so is going on call, and what is the status of the rest of the people? I'm out of town, I'm around, I'm available if somebody needs help, so on and so forth. We've created that kind of collaborative effort to manage the on-call emergency services, and the vehicles being available to those guys has created that atmosphere where we can cover each other. And I feel I understand the con side of things with it, but I think the pros that, when we talk about perception, and Neil and I had this conversation earlier, is public perception is a tricky deal because you don't hear a lot about the good things of perception. You always, the negatives are magnified. So I know in the years past we've had the perception of not being able to respond, quickly enough. We've had some, in particular, I can think of 2 off the top of my head, 2 sewer backups that we ended up paying out insurance money to, because, and I believe the one complainant at the time, one of her driving forces was that we didn't respond quick enough to inhibit or negate the damage that was done to the property. Now that's why we carry insurance and do that, but on my end of the operation side of it, if I can, head that off at the pass, I'm going to do everything that is available to me to protect the metro. So that's my stance in why I'm a proponent of keeping it the way it is. We can make the policy changes, and that can be amongst you guys on how we want to do that. But I would like you guys to take the consideration of, it's not just a convenience or a compensation for what we do. It truly has some efficiency benefits for the staff that the shorter staff that we do employ, to be able to make these timely responses. Now, when you talk about a 30-minute window of response, you got to also take into account, okay, we don't have the trucks parked at home. You got a 10-minute drive down to get your truck, and a 5 to 7 minute. Usually get to anywhere in the city from the shop from 5 to 7. So now you're at 20 minutes. You've got to plan ahead. So now your guy has to be within a 10-minute window of response, because 20 minutes of that 30 is him going to get his truck to make a response, type scenario. And we've had multiple cases through the years prior to having these trucks available 24/7, where one guy will respond, the on-call person who has the truck, and next thing you know, they need help. Well, I need help immediately. So you got somebody driving their personal truck to a water break or sewer plug. They're there for a little bit, then they gotta go. We gotta stop what we're doing. Once we kind of got that managed, we gotta go get another truck because it has the tools in it that are needed to take care of this and that. It becomes a struggle for us operationally to provide that service. Nobody wants to be out there. Nobody's trying to milk the clock after hours and gain overtime. But we're trying to get it done and get it done quickly and off the clock. And it's created a better efficiency for us to be able to do that.
And your complaints have gone way down, haven't they?
Well, that's where I said the tricky piece of perception. Is that the true reason why the complaints come down? But I haven't received any complaints about response time in a couple of years.
Another thing is with technology nowadays, everybody carries a cell phone. So when they do make that call, it's logged there at what time they make the call. So when that person gets there, well, I called you. No, here's where you called. This is where I'm at.
And it probably takes 5 minutes or so for the call to get to the person.
Yeah. So it's that's where that comes into play now. is technology has speeded that up. Last comment, unless, or,
I have a feel somebody might want to respond.
okay, go ahead, and then I'll.
First off, Jovan, how many W-2s did you do last year for benefits on these trucks? Benefits on the trucks?
None.
Okay, that's where I want to go with this. I've got two gentlemen that's already talked about, this is a benefit for us, for employees that they benefit. That is against federal law. We didn't file the W-2s.
Oh, she checked with the auditor.
No, not the auditor, federal law. Federal law is totally different when it comes to income taxes. Now, setting that aside, if that's what you like, let's go back to something the manager pointed out about. Okay, if you've got an employee that goes down and checks something, and they call and they say they need the jetter. Where's the jetter at?
At the shop.
Okay, so therefore, that person has to go from their home, the second person being called in, to the shop where the truck would have been. So, we've got equipment we've got to pick up at the shop. You could just pick up the truck there if needed, you know. When a employee leaves work, assuming they're on call, and they go home and they get in a different vehicle and leave, truck's legal. Now, he now has to go back to his home to retrieve that truck to go in. That's noticed quite often. So this, it's not just, we gotta have it to go straight there. That's not happening. The two on call make that. You have to have two people, it's agreed, that need a vehicle because they're going to make that initial declaration, hey, get 6 people here. I need 1 guy. They're making the call then for the others. Those others go straight to the yard and retrieve any tool or equipment needed to do the job. If the on-call person hasn't already said, I'm meeting you there. That's where I'm at on that. Another thing that this covers, I don't think we're looking at it completely, and we have to change it, as a couple of members have said, is laptops. This says right here, everything. It got a complete list. It doesn't list just vehicles. Anything that belongs to this community is in this paragraph. So I'm assuming our finance director takes a laptop home to work after hours. That will have to be adjusted. I don't know if she does or not. I know the water department has a laptop. Excuse me. Has a laptop. That will have to be adjusted. Because this is just a blanket statement, says everything. So we do have to make some adjustments. That is a given. My only concern is we keep using the term benefit in a public meeting, and that means there better be some W-2s issued at the end of the year. Okay.
I guess the issue is that we're using too much money for people taking the pickup home, or that's been a issue.
No, I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is public perception when they see a CCMD truck at a residence.
How many total vehicles are going home then?
5.
5 right now. Has anybody ever figured out how many miles that is per day? Or see what the cost is? That's pretty simple to figure out.
Well, that part is simple, but what isn't simple is in the course of an actual emergency or a break at 3 a.m., how many miles do we save if the break is closer to the truck than it is to the yard? So, yeah, you're right. If it was just the matter of from the house to the break, it'd be very simple.
There's some companies who, allowing somebody to take their vehicle home is just part of what they do.
Right.
And it's,
And that's not a
depends
benefit.
on what we're able to do.
Right.
It's
I don't
not
think it's
right
a
or wrong, it's just what we're able to do.
If they take their trucks home, it's not a benefit that needs to be put on a W-2 because
I agree.
they're not using it, they're just taking the truck home for their convenience. And the thing is, that's why we hire city manager, and that's why we hire people in authority like positions to make the best use of the 7 people we have.
Right.
And they work hard, and I think that we just need to put it on their shoulders to make the best possible decisions, and go on.
And redo the book.
And redo the book to make sure we take care of some issues.
So that Mr. James redo the book and
Yeah,
everybody take a look at it and vote on it.
yeah, so that can maybe just have them look at it and fine tune the things, and then come back to the next meeting maybe, but.
Okay, and we'll make that.
Harry, in the same sense, when I'm saying the benefit, it isn't only for that employee, it's a benefit for the community. Because it's reducing that.
I understand.
It isn't
but that's
that
not
I'm
what
just
you're
saying benefit, that it's, oh, I'm giving this guy something. No, I'm giving the community something.
Right.
A faster response time.
You know, excuse me just for a second. One way that we could resolve this problem completely, the perception issue, the gasoline issue, and the vehicle issue, is to start paying these gentlemen mileage and letting them use their own vehicles.
You're not gonna use my vehicle for the company work, I can tell you that right now.
It costs us more. It costs us more.
I didn't buy my truck for the Metro,
What do you want to use the Metro truck?
to do Metro work.
The new, Kelly was telling me the new laws, if you have used Donnie's truck, you're paying him 57 cents a mile to do that.
Yes.
Yeah, we know what the mileage
That's,
is.
Yeah, my daughter does it all the time, delivering mail.
Yeah, it just changed.
that's not gonna be less than what we're paying in fuel right now.
Yeah, I'll drive my truck to work, but I'm not gonna use my truck to work for you.
Because the trucks that we do buy are made for crews. They don't have carpeting in them, they could blow them out, whatever. Whereas my own personal car, I have carpeting and leather seats.
Well, first of all, you wouldn't use a $50,000 truck to do this with. You'd go out and you'd buy yourself a $5,000 truck and make a little bit of money. But we've got an individual in the back there that's using his own truck and not getting compensated at all by the district.
But that's not his fault.
No, it's not his fault. As a matter of fact, I commend him for doing it. I absolutely commend him for doing it.
But what I'm saying is.
I'm just stating that there's no perception problem with him. None whatsoever.
And exactly, that's why I said the tricky part about perception. If it's in benefit of the public or benefit of the Metro or there, the perception is, there is no perception because it's a benefit. The perceptions only come out when there's a negative perception. Those are the ones that you talked.
Okay, let's move on.
All right.
No.
All right, next in the study session, we have resolution 05-2020. It is a resolution for Colorado City Metro District acting by and through its Colorado City Metro District Water Enterprise and its Colorado City Metropolitan District Wastewater Enterprise, authorizing the assurance and sale of a water and wastewater enterprise revenue refunding and improvement bond, providing for the sources of payment of the bond and providing other details concerning the board and the district's water and wastewater systems. This has been looked at by bond attorney. Carolyn reviewed it. The banks reviewed it. Everything has been gone through 4 or 5 times. Yvonne and I have reviewed it 3 or 4 times ourselves. This is the first step of the refinancing and going forward.
Okay, thoughts? Go ahead.
First thought I've got is, you come before this board a number of times with this.
Mm-hmm.
Many times you were asked and you stated that this would not extend the payoff date of the current bond. It was just overlap, we're refinancing, all the dates stay the same.
No.
When I picked this up, it's now extended out to 2040.
No, we
It was,
The last one in December, I said that. This in here, with the way it worked out, yeah, we extended it 5 years. And that was brought,
I brought it up in a meeting. I did make sure so that the board has full information to make a decision that we were extending it by that amount of time.
because we were taking the
So-
payments so that the first 5 years of it was going to be within our same payment, where after the 5 years, that payment will be increased when we pay off the CWRD loan,
When was the original bond taken out?
2012.
2000, that's the
No,
original.
the original was taken out in
2003?
2003.
Okay. So you've got 2003, now we're going to extend it all the way to 2040. We paid nothing but interest. And when I look at the number here, we want to borrow 3.5 million that's going to cost us 5 million, because all we've done is extend. We've done nothing to pay this bond down.
We have. We
Where's
pay
the numbers?
a principal payment every year.
Principal.
And
payment
interest,
go up.
but we do
Yeah.
pay principal.
So what was the original bond? How much was the original bond?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up for you.
Give me a
In
guess.
2000. I bet you it was probably at 4.5. I don't know.
What do you think?
I don't know.
I really don't know. I would have to look, but I do know we do pay down principal.
So
every
what was
year.
the second bond?
That was in 2009 where they refinanced there.
So how much was the second bond?
I don't know what they borrowed over and above what they owed on the bond at that time.
You mentioned also some information that I found quite interesting, and I never got the answer. I understand that because you're busy and you can't always get with me, but you mentioned that this metro district borrowed 200,000+ from a roads department to get one of the other bonds. Was it paid off?
That's what we're still looking into.
So now we've not only taken out bonds, we've taken out loans that we haven't even paid
No,
back.
that-
And we
that-
keep kicking the
Internal
can down
loan.
the road.
That was an internal loan, yeah. For I think it was for the original bonds that were set up at the 2000.
Right, so we take out a loan along with the bond, and all we do is kick it down the road another 20 years for another board to have to deal with. We've got to find a way to quit kicking all this stuff down the road. Granted,
And
we
we weren't
need
aware
some
of
money.
that. At the time we were doing this refi, we were not aware of that.
I understand that. The
Tell them
more you
there
dig
was
into this, the more you're gonna find.
Yeah.
And we still have to determine if it was, well, it was internal loan, if it was paid off, we're still at that point.
Like I said, there was a lot of things that were inherited.
Yeah,
And
I
yes,
agree with that
And
100%.
we're trying to work our way out of that inherited stuff to get us back on track, to pay off all of the debts.
But we've got to find a way to quit adding years and doing nothing but paying interest over those years.
I wish I could say that we had the money to do the upgrades that we need done, or else you're gonna be out of business.
Great,
I was gonna say, the only way you're gonna do this, I mean, I appreciate you over there telling us that we can't add errors, and I appreciate you telling us that we gotta dig ourselves out, okay? But this is a simple math equation here, okay? We either gotta find a way to quit spending money, or we gotta find a way to get more money. Okay, now, getting more money isn't gonna be very popular in the community. I can tell you that right now. As a matter of fact, most of the people will probably run us up on a pole with a rope. Finding places to not spend the money is going to be a difficult thing, and you guys are gonna scream. I get that, okay? But I prefer that to the rope.
But we've done that. We've done that this year. If you look at, we just had our financials for water and sewer. This year, we're showing 95,000 that we're putting in the bank. Where if you look at last year's, it was not even close.
No, I understand that you guys have got the myriads of
Wastewater, it's
accounts
the same
going.
way.
I get that.
We've got things in place to make the mechanism work. And yes, we are adding depreciation. I know, Bob, you Neil brought it up, yeah, there was a couple of the places we didn't add depreciation, which was the swimming pool, which it is always all funded by taxpayer dollars. And I've got to keep it as tight as I can at this point in time, you know, without getting depreciation. But, you know, that's part of this is, yeah, we've got to bite the bullet. We're biting the bullet wherever we can to move forward. But also, you need to have working capital to turn around and make your systems more efficient to run to save capital. You understand what I'm saying there?
Oh, I do, but, yes. I mean, but still, I get all this, guys. But it really comes down to, we've got to tighten the belt up, and we've got to really come together as a group here, as a team. Quit beating each other up. I don't agree with that at all, okay? We got to quit beating each other up, and we got to come together as a team and figure out how to fix this, because this has been ignored for 60 years.
And that's what
if not longer.
That's what we're trying to do, is not ignore it and deal with the problems and the issues right now and up front.
Greg, we made $6,600 extra last year, and we had to hold an election.
Yeah.
Where you and I, as business people, we just pay more taxes. We don't have to go through all kinds of government hoops to get that $6,600 approved.
I know.
And I think that if you translated the depreciation money, if you translated the increase in revenue, if you added all that together, we've made significant financial improvement.
And operations don't stop because you want to save money. I mean, we still got to make repairs. We still got to do our deals. And I feel that the neglect for the past, as you stated, 60 years has created some of the bills that we're having to deal with right now. And I can't just make those things go away without putting some money towards them to make them more efficient, to make some changes within the personnel policies that we've already implemented to start saving some money, you know, and make our processes more efficient. But at the same token, the system is not getting any younger, and the money that we're talking about in this, we're putting directly back into the system. It's not a shopping list. This is something these are things that haven't been done for the last 15, 20 years. They're rearing their head, or are going to, if we don't get ahead of it.
It's like when we didn't have, when the whole water plant almost shut down because we didn't have any filters. I mean, the simple thing of just every year allowing money to put filters in on a regular basis because we didn't have water. We can't afford to do that, and I think this thing is a start. I mean, we're not going to get the money from the people because they're not going to raise their taxes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mils. Will bring us nothing. This will give us something to work on to build from. And you have to bite the bullet, and I think they are biting the bullet. Knock on wood, that things are running pretty smoothly right now, but our system is old. It would take, what would it take to put a whole new water system in?
There's a lot of zeros.
Yeah.
You're upwards of 30 to 40 million to redo a complete water renewal.
And that won't even cover probably one unit.
No, I mean, if you did the math here, 72 miles of water line and intersections, you know, all that, you got, you know, the going rates around $80 to $85 a foot. Now, granted, you put a project like this together, that cost comes down, but you're still probably $50 a foot for water lines, and that's probably on a base average of an 8-inch to 10-inch, which majority of our stuff is. But 70 miles times 5,280 feet?
It was 36 points.
Yeah, you're in the 30 million to 40 million.
You're looking at half a million.
The only thing that I'm saying here, that I'm trying to get across here, and I agree with you 100%. I don't want to micromanage this man at all. I hired him because I trusted him to do the job. Okay, but what I hate to see here is the fighting that goes on, and the bickering that goes on. When I think that all of us on this board, I think that Donnie, I think that Jim, I think we should all all put our heads together and come up with some solutions to these problems. I realize, I mean, it gives me a headache just thinking about how much money we're in debt. And I know that Director Bob has Director Cook has the best concerns of the community at heart when he's talking about this stuff. He doesn't necessarily, sometimes he approaches it like a nuclear bomb, but he has the best heart of the community. So I'm just saying that I would love to see us, rather than argue, rather than just automatically assume that something's going to be more than something else, that we start running the numbers, that we start figuring things out, and we start working together as a team.
You know, my whole goal is plan for this is we have 10 years that we work on this, and hopefully by 10 years we have it completely paid off.
I would love to see that plan.
And that's where I'm moving on. You know, if we can get our things up and running to the efficiency that they need to be doing, but you know, it's going to be the other situation, and it's really weird that you get everything working well and something else breaks down. You know, so like I said, if it's a perfect world, I'd like to have by 2030, here's a check, we're buying out, we're done. And it's a possibility. It's a real possibility. Or it's even a possibility that we get to that 2010 and we have enough in our balance to pay off at least half of it to take it way down.
I don't see that we have any choice whatsoever to borrow, other than to borrow money. And we have to have the money. We can't go out there and get it anyplace else. So we need the money. We just need to be real serious and put in place, like Jim says, means on into the future where we get paid off as soon as possible, where we can deal with this. And I think we are. I think what I see happening is improvements that are in place that are going to make it so that we can operate in the future with depreciation and money, and we can take care of our own. But right now, I guess I'm looking for any suggestions. What option do we have other than to borrow money?
The only way we bring money into the community, other than taxes and borrowing money, is to grow our way out of this.
Well, we don't have time for that.
And we probably don't have time for it.
I mean, we're growing at an exponential rate comparatively to the last 5 to 10 years, but it's not gonna, you know, when say, you know, the week before Christmas we came to the board and said, hey, I need $130,000 now, we're out of time. If that, or something in that magnitude was to happen a month from now, where are you gonna get the $130,000 from? You gotta have some capital that we can ear tag it for projects that, you know, that Bob has talked about, which we already have those in plans in place to do that. But a portion of this money is to set aside so that we can prioritize all these projects and put the better money to the best use. Bringing those projects in front of the board and talking about is all that Jim and I have talked about since we started down this road. How can we get to this point to where, you know, we're all collaboratively working together for the same thing. At the end of the day, it all takes money to do it. And right now we're house rich, cash poor. You know, we have a great community. We have a great staff that want to make this a better place, a better system, a better plant, all those things. But we're handicapped because we're a rural community, a special district. We're small in stature, so our revenue options are pretty limited. And I'm right there with you. I don't see it being feasible for us to tax our way out of this, or rate increase our way out of this. But we got to maintain or make this what we do have better to help support that. Is my stance, and that's what I'm daily working and crunching numbers of how we could do something differently to make it cost us less money And I throw stuff at Jim all the time, and what are your thoughts on this stuff? In hopes of we land on one of those aha moments that we can bring to the board and have your input on it too.
I think just Tabor by itself handicaps us a lot, and it restricts our revenues, restricts Colorado grants in water sewer up to 10%, and it did before restrict grants on the government side of everything else. So at least we are in better shape there where we can accept grants. But I think a lot of it has to do with Tabor, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're good. Any other, Karen?
Last meeting, every one of you sat here and said that you thought infrastructure was one of the most important things in Colorado City. We can't improve the infrastructure without some money. We just can't. It's a very expensive thing to do. I've sat here in this room for 12 years, and people say, oh, we need more money for capital improvements, which we do. But you have to fix things along the way, and that takes that money. So you need an infusion of money if you're ever going to start fixing the infrastructure.
If Harry would just give us some.
I know, he has enough, he should.
Between Harry giving us some and Donnie driving his own pickup.
Problem solved, right?
Oh, shoot. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to touch on one thing that was pointed out, the way of depreciation. And I appreciate the board allowing that. This is the absolute first year it's ever happened. However, I would like to have a discussion, not tonight, but myself and another director need to sit down and talk to finance department manager, because I have stated a number of times after we discussed this depreciation, what we were expecting in depreciation, and it's partially my fault. I did not read the exact number before we voted on the budget, and the numbers we talked about are not in this budget. That's concerning. Now, we did say we didn't know the exact number because finance had to look them up and apply them appropriately, and then they would be delivered to us. I do know one of the numbers very closely, and it's not reflected in here. Matter of fact, we're a third of what that's supposed to be. So this is something, yes, we've got depreciation, but then we also have made purchases that aren't reflected in this new budget in the way of depreciation. If you can't meet the depreciation, it's going to be difficult to just do anything but pay interest on loans going forward forever. Thank you.
All right. And I think in the minutes when Donnie was listing all the assets of the community, the staff and stuff, he forgot the board. Okay.
No, that was an assumed.
All right, anything else?
Right, it's in those 3 dots behind ETC, right?
Yeah. Anything else as part of the study session?
No.
Okay, I'm going to adjourn the study session, move directly into the regular meeting. Would you join me with the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For those of you who care to join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Let the minutes reflect that the entire board is here and we have a quorum. When you've had a chance, I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with an exception. We have on the agenda, let me look here, evaluation of manager under old business. I would ask that that be stricken till the next meeting. That needs to be under executive session. Executive session requires a specific legal statement.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the agenda with the exception of evaluation of manager to be moved to an executive session after an appropriate amount of time. Can I get a second?
Hold on, there's one other change too, is I'd like to put under old business, resolution number 06-2020. That would be designating election official. Since you guys last week you put me in, but you were going to find somebody to replace me, and that way we can do that.
Bob, are you comfortable with that change?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so what we have now on the floor is a approval of the agenda with striking evaluation of manager from old business and adding approval or discussion / action of resolution 6/2020. Could I get a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Well, wait a second. I think the evaluation of the manager, I think that should have been probably, because we have no forms. We haven't evaluated a manager for 3 years. And I think that might be missed. I think it should be getting an evaluation form or a process to evaluate them. Because we have nothing to do with that. We have no tools to evaluate them with. And I think we need to have a evaluation tool we'd like to look at so he knows what we're going to evaluate him on.
Well, we're striking this from
Yeah, but
the
I mean,
agenda for now.
yeah, but we can't evaluate a man until we have a form, so maybe put on there to get a form or a process so we have something to go by.
I would be happy to amend
That's my concern.
my motion to include Harry develop a form for the next meeting.
I can.
Wow.
We'll come up with some tool.
He wants serious.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's okay.
No, I agree.
But
I agree.
you see what I mean? I mean, we can't evaluate him when he has.
And then we also need to decide, because it's his choice, my understanding with Colorado law is it's his choice whether he wants to do it in an open forum or if he wants to do it in executive session.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, that needs to be decided by him.
Okay, but
That was very mean of you to do.
So
that isn't part of the resolution.
No.
I think you're gonna table the actual evaluation to executive session or at his discretion, but Harry
Include
wants,
a form.
let's define
And
the
the
process
railroad
for
tracks
evaluation.
run right by the building. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes. They're in the red section of your notebook. I need a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with a correction. Generally, I do not read these because of our statement, but I just happened to notice under, make sure we're in the right one. Regular minutes of the Board of Directors, Colorado City Express, held Tuesday, January 14th, 2020, 6:15 p.m. Number 12, agenda items 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 need to be corrected. We've got Mr. Collins twice in this statement. It should have been Mr. Elliott first and Mr. Collins second.
Karen, you have one job.
I know.
Okay. Any other changes to the minutes?
Tell me, which one again? Which one are we correcting?
Under the agenda items of the regular
Which
meeting,
one? What
the
are we?
architectural committee.
Mr. Cook made a motion, Mr. Collins seconded.
Oh, wait. Is that
Mr.
right?
Cook, Mr. Collins, Mr. Hostetler voted yes. Mr. Krause, Mr. Collins said no. So I don't know what I'm correcting.
Mr. Collins and Mr. Kraus both voted no.
That's what I said, Mr. Krause and Mr. Collins opposed on the basis he wasn't here.
Okay.
I've got two on one line. What is CCAAC? What is that?
Colorado City Architectural Advisory Committee is what you guys agreed to that.
Yeah,
Used to
review
be-
committee is what we said. Okay, but that's fine.
No,
It
that's
was
fine.
changed.
That's
Okay,
fine.
so what Bob basically said was that he moves that we approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Let's see. Has there Statement of conduct and demeanor. In order for the business of the board to be conducted in the most effective and expeditious manner, it is necessary that all persons present maintain a demeanor of civility toward the board, staff, and each other. Conduct that appears threatening or aggressive will not be tolerated. Shouting, speaking out of order, or the use of offensive gestures similarly are not acceptable. Such behavior shall constitute forfeiture of your right to remain in attendance and may, as a point of order brought to the board's attention by counsel or any board member, including the chairperson, result in your being asked to leave the meeting by the chairperson or, upon your refusal, being escorted out of the meeting by the proper authority. All right, agenda items. Oh, any citizen? Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, agenda items, Jay.
Okay, yeah. Carolyn wanted to be on the phone for this, so do you mind if I get her on the phone?
Why do we need her on the phone?
She wanted to be on it, that if there was any questions as to this, which is there going to be any questions on it, she would rather have that, know that how the directors voted, because all of this is part of that.
I will be making the motion request for a division of the house, so that covers everything you said.
Okay, so let me. That's fine. Okay, what we have is resolution 05-2020. A resolution of the Colorado City Metropolitan District acting by the and through its Colorado City Metropolitan District Water Enterprise and its Colorado City Metropolitan District Wastewater Enterprise, authorizing the issuance and set of a water and wastewater enterprise revenue refunding and improvement bond, providing for the source of payment of the bond and providing other details concerning the bond and the district's water and wastewater system.
I move the resolution 05-2020 settled water and sewer enterprise bond transfer financing. I make a motion to approve that.
It's been moved that we approve resolution 5-2020. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, we all know we need money. Even I know that. I just feel that this is rushed. We have not looked at all options. And I just think it's been hurried through the process. That's all I've got to say.
All right. Any other discussion?
Mr. Cook, I think that this has been brought up and talked about to some extent, quite a lot, I guess. The other issue we have is that we're kind of up against the wall here. We are approaching a significant debt just for the water companies. And we don't have the way to finance that unless we approve this, unless we approve some kind of financing package.
And that's a problem I see that's happened in the past. We spend the money before we even borrow it. That I know we needed that. We needed water filters, but we had other options there than this, in the way of minimal reserves and other things. But I'm just saying, we made a purchase. Now we want to base a loan on the purchase. That's kind of backwards. But I agree we need money. There is no disagreement on that point at all. And I see no way of getting money other than financing. What I don't like is a bond that's been laying there and already been refinanced before, and we're doing it again. So we have paid more money in interest than the entire bond to begin with. So that's just a position is all.
Any other discussion? I have a motion on the floor to accept resolution 5-2020. All in favor signify.
Mr. Chairman, I call for a division of the house.
All in favor individually signify thus. Harry, start with you.
Aye.
Bob?
No.
Chair says aye.
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 Motion carries. Number 2.
Okay, number 2 is vehicle policy. We discussed this. I believe you want me to come back with some ideas as to bylaws and personnel laws on that for changes and
I think
review of it.
I think our rules definitely need to reflect what is currently going on.
Okay.
Other discussion or thoughts as far as giving Jim some guidance?
Some of these rules, especially the W-2 form and stuff like that, are not necessarily at our level. That's something that cannot be changed. Some of this was written by the lawyer, we know that, as fact. And there was reasons for the way it's worded here. I would just urge caution when rewriting this. We know for a fact we've had issues trying to retrieve equipment in the past. And those concerns should be considered during the rewrite.
Okay. Other input for James?
Maybe a question of timeline? When could we have that?
Probably by next meeting.
A rough draft.
Yeah, the rough draft.
Okay. So I'll just instruct you, James, to do that if you would and present it to us at the next meeting. Nothing else on the agenda. No attorney's report. Old business. Go ahead with this.
Old business, we had a bill that there was a question on, was J&M Solutions. It was for the golf course website and domain. Did talk to them. We do own the domain on that. There is more work that goes into that than just hosting the domain or paying that hosting fee. There is updates on a monthly, wouldn't you say, Bill?
Maintenance.
Yeah.
And maintenance
Yeah.
throughout the year for the $205.
And changes and tea times and.
Right.
So they're doing all the website upkeep.
Yeah.
And security, right?
Yes.
Security.
And security and stuff like that.
I know there was a concern Bob brought up that I'm gonna have to sit down with her, and that being a government entity, we need to retain all changes and stuff. So I'll have to get with her to see if there are any changes and stuff to put them onto our server and get that information from her.
Any questions? Comments?
I had comments, sir. After getting the statement, it's a little better breakdown than what we had on the other. The domain renewal and the IDC or ICD soft hosting is acceptable in price. You've got 10 and 65. I knew what those numbers should have been. They're right there with close to the numbers I had quoted. Website renewal is what it says, John's work. Now, if we're going to, let me start over. We should be owning our own name. Now, I'm told by James that we do own it, but they're using it to create this site. And that's not really an issue. The problem we've got is these are open records. So all change logs need to be retained. This is digital. There's no issue in retaining the information that's on there. So we need to look at making sure that our change logs are properly archived. Another thing we need to look at is one of the reasons we have a .gov site is because of state and federal regulations concerning open records and requirements under the Terrorist Act and some other things. So I have no issue with us owning the stuff that everybody does. We need to find out if this can be redirected to our .gov site in the future. If we want to hire John here to do work, there's no issue there. We just need a invoice that says what the work is for. As for the actual old business, I would make a motion at this time to pay that bill.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we pay J&M Solutions $205. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, next, geese. I didn't have a conversation, I know Donnie has, and I know Harry has, with Mr. Brown. And he said that our geese population is growing. It is not diminishing, and we're going to continue to have problems. He still is interested in having a DOW controlled thinning of the geese. Said it would probably be best done at the ballpark. But it's up to the board as to whether we want to do that or not. And I know I brought this in December to the board, and we just kind of went, the perception of the people, what it's going to be. I know the other day when I was coming down from Tank 1, that whole field there on the west side of Beckwith, it was black and white. There, I bet you there had to be.
We've moved them from the golf course to Beckwith, which compounding the issue, the original issue.
Doesn't help the filters.
You know, doesn't, yeah, exactly. So, Mike's, I believe, correct in the assessment that we haven't really diminished the population much. We've kind of moved them where they're less visual to the golf course and some other stuff, but at the same time, we haven't really solved much problem. He does want to make it very clear, though, that this hunt, so to speak, is, in this case, would be step 2 of what we've been doing. We've been hazing. This will be this, and he would really like us to. We didn't do a very good job of oiling last year. He really highly recommends that we step up our game and get that done this next hatch.
And I ran into him at the golf course the other day, and I talked to him for probably an hour. And he said, what we're doing is moving the geese from the golf course to the ball field, to the lake and back. And he said, and those shells that we're using are not doing the job. And he said, and I said, there's other cities that do the same thing that we're proposing to do, and they give the food to the food banks and stuff. And he couldn't be here tonight, but my recommendation would be to allow the DOW to come in and thin our geese out.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a resolution at this time to go ahead and allow the
Can I
DOW.
speak just real quick before you?
Well, you can speak during the conversation period if you don't mind. I'd like to make a resolution at this point to allow DOW to conduct their hunt and thinning of the geese.
I have a motion on the floor for allowing the Department of Wildlife to do a controlled goose thinning.
And
Do
I'll
I have a
second it.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion.
Has this gentleman offered any other way? We know we need to kill them. That's not the issue I'm asking about. I have been around other communities that have predator and other issues. And in some of them, they bring in snipers and do it in the dead of night so nobody knows what's going on. It's the perception I'm worried about. I don't want PETA down here. I'm for killing the goose and eating the goose, but I would like to keep the perception minimal so that the people really aren't aware that it's going on. Is that been touched on?
I believe when we had Mike here, when he came the last, I want to say a year ago, December roughly, I could be way off. But I do believe, or I recall him speaking to the point of that we're really limited to the two, I guess the approved, state approved or federal approved, being this is a federal regulated animal. methods of take, which we still have to abide by those rules. The DOW can't make, so sniping them isn't an approved method of take. We gotta still follow the DOW guidelines for method of take. It's no different than you have to take a certain caliber rifle to shoot an elk or a deer. And I believe he spoke to the fact for it has to be I can't think of the word. It has to be
Still shot.
yeah, but it has to be a humane method of take and no suffering, so on and so forth. And I believe he spoke to the fact that they've had mixed results in communities where they were allowed to do this snipe piece, where animals, especially in the dark, did get away, and the homeowner found them the next day in the front yard, still alive, but not. And so their stance is to maintain the method of take that's directed by the federal government and the DOW.
Refresh me on what that method is.
So essentially, it's a 12 gauge with steel shot. You have to use,
And the DOW people do it.
yes.
And where do you want this done?
The site that we're looking at would be either the big field which would be the old nursery on the west side of the lake, that big open green belt that we have there, or nursery space, and or a controlled hunt down at the ball fields where we closed the park off for the DOW, and nobody was allowed in that area from the track side or the park side for a designated period of time. Yes, the highway runs right next to it, but the large concerns about doing any of the hunting within the golf course based upon proximity of houses. With that, their recommendation is those two locations.
Do we have to change the law for discharging a firearm?
We already did that when we allowed the cracker shells, because basically our policy was discharge of any firearm. We already modified that once. We can double check with that.
And this is modified.
It's a new resolution.
I participated in a goose take at night, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service used it was a regular 22. It's a high velocity 22 round, and I don't believe we took more than one shot. The two people that were doing the shooting, we will not be allowed to do the shooting, and probably the state will not be allowed to do the shooting. It's the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and that's what was there in the Colorado Springs, and it was I think it was 100% one shot deal. Correct. It was at night, and you go to 12 gauge shotgun, there's a perception right there. 22 rifle, they never knew it. Anybody was ever there. They just went away. It was I guess it has some pressure on it, but it was quiet. We took, and there's a limited number of geese, and we won't be able to get rid of the problem in 1 year because it is a limited number.
Yeah, all bag laws still do apply.
Right. But it worked well, and with Mr. Brown's help, and then Fish and Wildlife Service, they have their regular meetings also. They were.
I don't believe we get to choose the method.
No, the DOW.
That is going to be DOW's.
Well,
U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
I can ask the question, absolutely, Bob,
That's fine.
and get back to you with what his response is.
I just want to make my statement, and then we'll probably vote on this.
You made the comment that the bag limit still apply?
Yeah, so
Well, how many would be the take?
so Canadian geese, I believe, is 4 per person
How
involved.
many would they have? How many people? How
Um,
many hunters?
the conversation we had at the time, I think it was prior to Harry's conversation, he was talking about bringing a few, I think was his declaration of DOW officers in to do that.
So it definitely will.
So I
take
mean, we're
over
probably
1 year.
going to be looking at 12 or 25 taking, and it's not so much that the way he explained it to me is that we're physically taking these out of the population. We're going to dwindle the population down to what is manageable or what they deem, yeah, you have a geese, but it's not a problem anymore. It was more the aspect of the geese are going to see their buddy falling from the sky, and they're gonna choose a different place than that. It's more of a deterrent along with, I don't know how else to put that. Wally,
Yeah.
can you help me out?
I got you back.
I got your back.
When
Trying not to
doesn't-
say what I wanted to
Jordan
say.
can show up at the lake. And,
Yeah, it's a twofold. Yes, you're gonna take some out, but you're also gonna deter the other ones from returning.
Deterrent.
Mr. Chairman, I'm for thinning the geese. However, in this situation, I would be totally for thinning them back behind the lake with the 12 gauge. However, they have options they can use. It's not, I think even this gentleman knows it's doable. I don't think it's been thoroughly looked into, and I would say that if I've got to vote on the whole program, it's out. If you're going to use shotgun down in the park, like you said, the cars going by. I know they're not going to shoot the cars, but it's, you know, if they were only over there, I would be a little more for this. But as it stands in the park, I'm going to have to consider a no on the vote.
I would entertain your other questions, or did we make a motion?
Yes,
And a second.
What time is that?
About 45 minutes.
Yeah, I have a motion on the table and a second to allow the Department of Wildlife, it's coming back to me now, to conduct a controlled geese thinning. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Hey, before we get into the last deal of business, I'd like to introduce Mr. Smith, who we voted on last week. You can stand up for the CCAA committee. He asked, I told him if he could come in and make his presence known to everybody, so everybody puts a name and a face together.
Very good. Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, last thing under old business, I have, last week we made me the DEO. There was discussion to have another one. So I know Greg said that he had found 2 people
Two people volunteered.
that volunteered to do it. I had talked to Carolyn in the meantime to make sure there would be no conflict, whatever. She says, no, that would be fine. She says, I just have to rewrite the resolution so that it would fit. So we went through and got the resolution. So we have resolution number 062020, resolution to remove and replace designated election official and to authorize replacement designated election official to council election. The board hereby names James W. Niren and Levita D. Vinci as the DEOs for the regular special district election scheduled for the 5th May 2020 to replace James Ecker, effective upon adoption of this resolution. The board also hereby names Karen Davis as deputy DEO for regular special district election scheduled for May 5th. The reason we put Karen there is that way we could still keep this address as a drop-off point for nominations, self-nomination forms. She can handle them. The DEOs, they could come in and get them from her.
May I have that copy for just a moment? To properly do this. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution 6/2020, resolution to remove and replace designated election official and to authorize replacement designated election official to council election.
It's been moved that we adopt resolution 6/2020. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know who these people are. Can you help out there?
Levita, she is actually trained in elections. She usually sits in here during one of the elections as one of the election judges. And James Nairn is set on a couple boards here in town, plus he's a pastor at church.
And neither of them have any connection to Colorado City. They're not residents of Colorado City.
Both are residents
They
of
are
Colorado
residents.
City. Yes. I tried to find somebody outside of Colorado City, but that was not possible.
Well, understanding that Mr. Ecker would like to get rid of that duty. But the main reason we were trying to find somebody else was
To
have somebody
reduce
not-
the conflict of interest.
Right, and it doesn't sound like we've done that.
Yeah, well, we have, because they have nothing to do with this.
With the Metro.
They have nothing to
With
do with
Metro, but they still have something to do with Colorado
They
City.
do have something to do with Colorado City, but, I mean, I got what I was able to get.
You're gonna have that in any,
I-
Yeah,
So my question basically is, I have no idea who these people are.
And that's the whole idea.
and that there in itself would be, now, I'm not up for election this time, so, you know, I know both of them, so it'd be a problem if I was, but it's actually a good idea that I don't think any of you.
Oh, I know the one that said, I mean, I harass them every time they're here for elections, so I know the one, and the other one's the minister.
Yeah, they both live in Rye.
No, Mr. Nairn lives on,
Oh.
Andrews, where Andrews.
Yeah, he lives here in Colorado
I mean,
City.
I know
She
both-
lives in
Levita
Rye.
lives in
I know
Rye.
both people,
Yeah,
but
Levita
it's
lives
not
in
a,
Rye.
So.
it's not an issue that I mean, it's not an issue to even know us.
But I also, because I don't know who they are, if we were going to choose somebody like that, I also could choose Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
If
If
there
you want
was Charlie
to.
Brown, it wouldn't happen.
Charlie Brown wouldn't sign up.
so, Pigpen might.
What are you saying?
You'd like to know.
Are these
first.
people able to do the job? Will they do the job?
I do know both of them, and I would say absolutely.
They will definitely do
Okay,
the job.
that's good enough.
I do not know them personally, I know of them. And what I know of them, very upstanding people.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, all in favor of adopting resolution 6/2020, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Any other old business? Move on, any new business?
One, you forgot, it's 7:30.
No correspondence, no executive session, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that motion.
Motion carried.
Doing it 7 o'clock.
I skipped.
You told me I couldn't do.
This actually
This is a 10 o'clock story. I
I
don't care where we're at, I'm just gonna give a motion.
But it's just what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put things in talk with Look at something. I mean, I read you every day, whether you know it or not, I know
When you